about your father, Don. He loved the racing industry, is that right? How was he always involved in the sport of harness racing?
Look, he loved harness racing mainly through my mum, because my mum held a trainer's licence and they bred and raced horses together. So he was really sort of involved in it because of mum and grew to love it.
Yeah, and your mum is a knight?
That's right, yeah. She's Bob, Jack and Ellen's sister.
Yeah. And Don, he spent time as a steward, is that right?
Yeah, he did. He worked as a steward at the Kilmore Racing and at some of the other clubs as well too, but he worked as a bookmaker supervisor at Kilmore too, and then ended up volunteering at the trials and the race days as a patrol steward. Yeah. And he loved that.
Yeah.
He really enjoyed it.
And this club meant a lot to him.
Yeah, it did. He sort of saw it start in the 60s and watch it grow to what it is today.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's amazing the difference in the club over the years, how it's, you know, grown and the beautiful new buildings that are here now from the old grandstand that used to be there in the 60s and 70s. And
Do you remember growing up, coming up to the trots with your dad? Is there any particular day that stands out for you?
Oh, I think Alannah's got some special memories of coming to the harness with my dad.
Yeah. And Alannah, your grandpa, of course, Don, tell us, what did he mean to you?
He was my whole world when I was little. I was just tagged along at the hip everywhere we went. I used to follow him here into the steward's room, and they actually had really good treats there. Yeah. Like they had little biscuits and sandwiches, and because I'd follow him in, and sometimes I'd get in trouble because there'd be things going on in there that shouldn't be witnessed by me. But he used to sneak food out to me. And just recently, when I had my interview for my licence, they were saying, "Oh, you're not the granddaughter of Don that used to take the paper home for you to draw on?" Because I used to draw with him. He was a really good drawer and just really good with everything with his hands, like the wood and stuff. He could build you anything. But at the trots, I'd just follow him around and listen to everything and say, "Oh, what does that mean?" And I just, we were pretty much joined at the hip growing up.
So why were you best mates with your grandpa?
I was a bit more of a tomboy growing up, so I'd help him fix the fences and help him do all the farm work. And to be honest, he was just always on my side for everything. Like if I was ever in trouble, he was the first person to say, "Alannah, it's all right," and we'll go do something fun. And he was just always on my side with everything. Not that I was naughty, but he was just like a rock to me, and he was such a special person. Like I said, he was like a father to me growing up, and he taught me a lot.
So describe your grandpa for us then, as a human being. What made him so special?
He could just walk into a room and light it up, really. Everyone liked him, like he never ever had a problem with anybody, and we'd go down the street like for, one thing, a bottle of milk, and we'd have half the town coming over and talking to us, and he was just a really bubbly, well-liked person. He had the driest sense of humour. Like if someone said to him, "Hey mate, are you right?" he'd say, "Mate, I'm married, I'm never right." Like that's what he was like.
He was a character.
And he was so funny and just the kindest person. Like he'd never do a bad thing to anyone. He was also really pedantic about every little thing. Like I can remember, because of him, with the headstalls, if anyone sends a horse out with a headstall on into a race, I just cringe, because I remember him going, "They should have taken that off, the lazy buggers, they should have taken it off."
So as a steward, he would have been a different steward, wouldn't he? How was he? Did you watch him closely as a steward, or was it he was more there, because he spent a lot of time volunteered his services as a timekeeper here at Kilmore?
To be honest, like going around with him, you wouldn't have really thought he was a steward, because everyone was so warm to him. Like, not that they're not warm to other stewards, but he's just always been so well liked. I think it's his sense of humour, and just anyone like that remembers him, their first thing that they say is, "Oh, your grandpa was a great man. I loved your grandpa. He was really wonderful to talk to, and he was just always up for a laugh and a chat. He didn't take life too seriously, and you know, he just didn't take anything to heart. Like, he just got on with it, and you know, was just really happy to be here and have a good time."
The Kilmore Harness Racing Club, what did he, to be involved and to volunteer as a timekeeper, he must have loved the people, loved the racing industry, to still want to be a part of it in a way like that.
It was sort of a mutual love. Like, as I said, he loved the place and the people loved him, and every time he'd come down, you know, everyone would be so glad to see him, and he'd just be really happy to be here. I think probably spent more time here than anywhere else.
True.
He had lots of fond memories here, didn't he? And he'd come home and he'd tell us lovely things that had happened, or sometimes, you know, as a steward, you don't always have good stories to tell, but yeah, a lot of the time it was always just about how much he loved it here.
Do you have a favourite moment did he have a favourite horse that he used to tell you about, or?
Yeah, any of our horses would have been his favourite.
Which one, was there anyone particular that stood out?
He had a lot of fun going to see Jodie's babe race. Yeah, she raced in Sydney a couple of times, or probably maybe 3-4 times Ladyship Mile in the Tour, and then going over to Perth to the Inter-Dominion.
So explain the story behind Jodie's babe, and Bob trained her, of course, but the family connection there, and
Mum bred Jodie's babe. She'd been breeding for over 20 years before she bred Jodie, and as a youngster, Rita Burnett had Jodie's babe, and then she went on to Uncle Bob, and she was very successful in the beginning with Rita, and then even went, you know, to the greatest heights with the Inter-Dominion. Yeah.
What did he used to say about Jodie's babe? What made her so great?
The strength of her as a mare, because she was often against the geldings and the colts and beating them, and that was just pretty amazing to have a mare that can do that, because there's not many that can. And I think the Inter-Dominion, a mare hasn't won the Inter-Dominion since Jodie, and that's going back over 30 years now. I could be wrong, but I don't think so.
You're right.
Yeah.
I think we looked into it recently.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're right.
And Jodie's babe means so much to your family. Does Don recall about that time that she did win that Inter-Dominion? It would be a great place to win an Inter-Dominion at the Coliseum at Gloucester Park.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was, the people there were so friendly, just welcoming. The club itself over there, and just that atmosphere was packed, over 20,000 people. The climate, everything, just wonderful. And the horses would go and swim at the beach, and just really good memories.
And now, Alannah, that you want to get into the sport as a trainer, probably a driver. They tell me you're doing track work lessons now to get into the gallops as well. So you love the horse, but there's a special association with Jodie's babe. Is it a dream of yours to train one of her progeny, or along the family lines anyway?
I think it's everyone's dream to drive or train a Jodie's babe, or even breed one, even better. But Jodie, when I was little, she was the type of horse that you could just go out to and sit with or hop on, or she'd just instantly make you feel better. Like, she had this really beautiful nature that, you know, you don't always get with mares, because sometimes they just want their personal space, but not Jodie. She was really similar to Popper in a way. Like, he loved her. He always encouraged me to be out there with her, handling her, and I used to bring her down when she was getting served, because we had the crush at home, and watching all of that is what made me want to breed as well. Like, watching Nana decide so carefully who she was going to send Jodie to, and knowing like the breeding of my horse, Serene Babe, which she didn't actually end up really racing. She had a couple of starts, and I sort of turned her into a riding horse, but she, watching her go through all of that and picking the stallions, it's made me want to do the same thing with her. So she's currently enrolled to sports rider, And yeah, I know Papa would be watching and wishing, you know, oh, fingers crossed that we could get even just a fraction of what Jodie was like.
Yeah. Now, do you understand when you get into this game and harness racing especially, that with your mum and your nana related to the Knights, one of the greatest harness racing family?
Oh, it's a lot. I mean, I've always heard such great stories about them, and not just from other people, but just from watching all the replays. There used to be, when I was little, they used to have little locks on the cupboards, and I used to try and get in to watch them all the time. They were worried I was going to break them because they were just old tapes that, you know, you'd put in the VCR. And yeah, there's been lots of wonderful memories. All the stories Nana's got about Bobby and Vinny, like they used to ride up to the monument up here, and that's a part of that, like I do with my own horse. I just gallop her up the monument, and I think, wow, what would this have been like when Vinny and Bobby and everyone used to do it? Like, you've got to think how special it is just being in a place where so many harness people that are sort of legends have been. Like, it's such a special feeling, just knowing to have that connection.
And Gaye, Vinny Knight is your cousin. What was he like as a cousin? Did you, when you were growing up and watching him grow up and compete, did you think, oh, that's why you're one of the greats of the sport?
I think he always knew that he was going to be good.
Yeah.
And yeah, he proved that he was. Just had a heart of gold, loved to win, and yeah, didn't like to be beaten, loved to win, very determined, but that's in everything, like in running races or in harness racing, same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a really good person though, good for the sport.
Yeah.
As well, just amazing for the sport that he was a headline most days.
Yeah. And what was your uncle like, Uncle Bob?
A really good person, yeah, heart of gold as well, and funny. Yeah, he had some good sayings. Yeah.
And popular arm?
Yeah, a beautiful horse.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful horse. Actually, speaking to Diane, Vinny's wife, a couple of days ago, and she was telling Alannah and I how she rode Poppy up in Sydney.
Yeah.
Felt like she had the weight of the world, like Vinny's whole world, while she was sitting on Poppy and taking him for these rides bareback. Vinny said, if you lose this horse, don't come back.
When you arrive here, Alannah, even coming back here, Gaye, for you, with your father's impact here at this club, a race named after him, with Bob and Vin and the Knights and all that, it is a special place.
Yeah, it's a lovely thing for the club to actually do these memorial nights, because it gives Kilmore harness racing was and has been over the years like the centre of harness racing prior to Melton. All the big names were here, and some have passed and that are getting honoured on these special nights. And yeah, they really contributed a lot, like so many people. Yeah.
I think he'd be very honoured. This would probably be one of the things where he'd be a bit speechless, because he was that humble. He wouldn't like to express, you know, how happy he was. He'd just sort of, I think he'd just cease up a bit and be so happy he'd nearly cry, don't you? Because he's a very deeply
sensitive,
emotional person, even though you didn't see it all the time. Like he'd get that happy about things. Like he actually, in our first dance together at my Deb, he was my special person dance, and never seen him tear up, but I reckon this would make him tear up just about the same.
You must be so proud then.
Yeah, my biggest goal with the racing and training would be to see even just a fraction of what Kilmore was like when it had the Knights and, you know, the Chapmans and my grandpa and everyone just, you know, pretty much running the harness racing side of things. Like, I'd just love to see even a fraction of that in this area again, because, yeah, that spirit and the heart of Kilmore really was something that my grandpa, you know, brought that to, and he was a big part of that.
But I'm tipping one day too that we'll come here on Memorial Night and Alannah will be winning the Don Logie Memorial, and I'll be looking forward to that presentation that day.
Oh, that is actually a goal. We're hoping that Luke maybe might have a horse for it that Mum
Yeah,
is
I've got a
in.
little share-in one with Luke,
Yep.
and the goal was to have her in this race on the 24th. So
Yeah.
it's not out of the realm at this stage, so we're just crossing our fingers and
Yeah.
hoping that it might happen
What's the horse's name?
just as well.
All right, then. We'll be crossing our fingers and toes that just as well gets here. And what would it mean for you to win the Don Logie Memorial?
It'd be very, very special. Yeah,
We're
very
both
emotional, I
crying.
think.
Yeah.
Even like for my mum as well too. Mum is 93 and she follows
Yeah.
harness on the television
She loves
all
it
the
still.
time. Yeah.
She can't watch it too late though because it gets her blood pumping a bit
She
much.
said she gets
she's
too excited.
too revved up before bed.
I wonder what she'll say about you when you take your first drive.
Oh,
Yeah.
she's that into it. She gave me her stopwatch that she used to use, and that was really special. I know Pop would have been really happy
Yeah.
to see us getting along and bonding like that because I always shared that bond with him, and sort of just coming there now with Nan as well.
Well, I look forward to it. Yeah, I think hopefully you'll win the race this year, and away we go. But appreciate you coming in and telling us your story and talking about your family members, especially Don and Bob and Vinny as well. And hey, Alannah, go and get the best of luck.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thank you.